Howdy from Arlington, Texas, y'all. Hope this video finds you well. So for a couple weeks now, I've been planning to do this video. As you see in the title, it's a video response for KBO Collections. Go check his channel out if you haven't yet. Just things have gotten in the way. Life's gotten in the way. I've had some back issues as of late. Some other things going on. So just hadn't really had a chance to sit down and go through, all these boxes that have my cards in them. So what this is my 20 favorite cards. Went through yesterday and pulled out all the contenders, and what I pulled out would have come to 42 spots. So he wants your top 20 cards in your collection, and this is your top 20, not necessarily based on value or anything like that. I see so many people that do, these are my top 10 most valuable cards. Well, I don't care about your most valuable cards. I care about what your favorite cards are, what your top cards are. Somebody commented on one of my videos recently that I seem to have a story for most of these cards, or for most of my cards. And that to me is what collecting is about. So most of these cards have some kind of story. They evoke some kind of memory or something for me because I have been a collector for 33 years now. So as I said, I got it down to 42 cards yesterday. This is a video response for KBO. It is a contest. I'm not doing it for the contest aspect. I thought it would be a fun video to do. If I win a contest, great. But his rules were, he doesn't want to see, he didn't want you to repeat a player. It wanted to be different things. If you're, in his case, he's a Bob Gibson collector. Well, he doesn't want it to be his top 20 Bob Gibson cards. He wants, more thought and other things to show variety. Is a guy that struggles to stay focused. I have so many different types of collections, and you'll see that throughout this video. Just the randomness of some of the guys that I collect or have collected, the sports, and so on and so forth. But this is going to be a long video because, as you know, I like to hear myself talk, and most of these cards have some sort of memory, or, they evoke emotion or something like that. And, I'm going to tell you why these cards were some of the ones that I chose. So let's get started. So the first one here, Harrison Musgrove. He is a former WVU pitcher. This is the first card I had of him. This is his Albuquerque Isotopes. I bought the team set. But if you know me, you follow me on social media, or you just watch my videos for a while, you know that I am a big dog lover. And the team, they do something, I don't know if it says on here, visit Animal Humane New Mexico org to volunteer at our shelter. So all of the players are pictured with a dog of some sort, and I love that. And here he is with a pit bull, which is one of the breeds of my 3 dogs. I have a pit bull, a pointer, and a Patterdale Terrier. So just for that alone, and he looks super happy. Doggy looks happy. So that was one that is definitely among my favorite 42 cards. These cards here are in no particular given order. These 2 cards I got signed at the Dallas Card Show last year by a guy that at one point was my favorite player as a kid. I got to meet Mickey Tettleton. He was a hell of a nice guy. Took a picture with me. When I was in Little League, I did catch for 1 year, and I did try emulating that flat batting stance that he had going on. It didn't work too well for me. But the fact that I was able to get these, and Baseball Collector, he does his Dick Perez, and he likes to get the Diamond King signed as well, and he kind of turned me on to that. So the fact that I was able to get him to sign the 1990 Diamond King in person was great. And I feel like these 93 flares always get you a good looking signature. So that was the reason I considered those. This card right here, it could have been this. It could have been any of the blue parallels I have that are numbered out of 999, which maybe it should have been one of those because our colors are gold and blue. This is one of my favorite WVU football players of all time. If you look in the background, you see a couple of Oklahoma defenders chasing our fullback, Owen Schmidt. He ran for a touchdown on this play. This was the Fiesta Bowl, the game after Rich Rodriguez left under the cover of night and went to Michigan to become our head coach, or their head coach. And the team, an ESPN poll said 93% of the people responded that Oklahoma was going to win this game, and we beat the living hell out of Oklahoma. The photo, Owen Schmidt's one of my favorite Mountaineers of ever, and getting to hear Matt Vasgersian, and you can go find this on YouTube, say as he's running down the sidelines, like a runaway beer truck. Just to me, one of the greatest calls ever. Just the photo means a lot and gives me great memories of that game, and this is not the last time you'll hear a similar story in this video. These couple of race used, Brian Clawson raced, he worked his way up through dirt tracks, and actually, as you can see here, was racing NASCAR at the Busch Series level, which is the second tier for a while. He ended up, it didn't go quite as he had planned, and he ended up running back on dirt tracks, and he ended up running the Indy 500 multiple times, and these two cards are signed. You can see there and there. His first Indianapolis 500, he ran for Sarah Fisher's racing team, and he is from Noblesville, Indiana. At that time, I lived in Noblesville, Indiana, and they did a little like celebration thing, meet and greet, so I was able to go get him to sign these, meet Sarah Fisher. I was in attendance a few years later at the 100th running of the Indianapolis 500, and he was actually able to lead, I believe it was lap 100, but he led, I think, 2 laps under caution. He was not a front runner. It was through pit cycles and whatnot, and I got a picture of it and was hoping to send it to him to get signed. But unfortunately, later that year, in August, he had a wreck in Nebraska at a race and succumbed to his injuries the next morning. So these will also always have a special place in my collection. Pretty much anything you see here, if I were to ever get out of cards and sell off my collection, these would probably stay with me. But if I did sell them, they would be some of the last to go. So this little group kind of goes together. As many of you know, or if you know from I said West Virginia University. I grew up in the state of West Virginia, and 2 of the greatest athletes to ever come out of West Virginia, not the 2 greatest, but 2 of, were Jason Williams and Randy Moss. And they played together in high school at DuPont High. They won, what was it? 3 straight basketball titles. 2 of them, these guys were together. I believe the third one, forgive me if I don't have my facts 100% straight. The third one, I believe Moss was by himself. But these 2 grew up together. And maybe you remember from the early 2000s, maybe it was 99, 2000, the Nike commercial that they had them with the Dukes of Hazzard theme, the good old boys. But nonetheless, will always have a soft spot in my heart for these guys, even though neither one attended West Virginia University. And I didn't really have a preference. I just wanted to show one of the better Williams cards. So that's so far the only Topps Chrome Refractor that I have. I do have this that I purchased in a lot. This is back from about 2000 when jersey cards actually meant something. Nowadays, jersey cards are just the new common card, in my opinion. But this is back when jersey cards were awesome and meant something. Oh, 2000, 2001. Again, still not a big fan of jerseys, but I love Christmas, and as you can see, this is called Christmas cards. It's got a 2-color because it's got the pinstripe from the Magic jersey, and it also tells on the back. I've shown this card before. It also tells on the back what game, Christmas Day 2009, that he wore this, and gave a little bit of what he did that day. So, just for me, an awesome card. 2 non-sports, and not the last non-sports you'll see. A couple of Ginter cards. Dan Rather, I went to school for TV and radio broadcasting. So as a kid and when I was younger, I had a lot of respect for him. Obviously, that went out the window later, um, as as he was not able to remain neutral and just report the news. But the fact that the Relic is, who knows what was actually in these, on this piece of paper that he wrote. I remember somebody else out there, I can't remember who it is, has a one, and I think it says Obama on it or something like that. So obviously, it would have been pretty cool to have had that, regardless of your thoughts on politics. But to me, that's a piece of history, and Dan Rather will be remembered as one of the top reporters, or you know, I guess he wasn't a reporter so much as he was an anchor. And this one I love. Um, Hated Joe Buck for a long time, but when I started watching the TV show Brockmire and he played himself on there and he plays up what everyone thinks about him being smug and arrogant and he just plays it up, it's so great. So I think this was a tie relic, or from his tie, yeah, necktie. So when I saw that at a show, actually I don't think I saw that. I don't think I got it at a show. Yeah, I did get it at a show. I did get it at a show. So because of that, and I love that show, and I now love Joe Buck because he played it up. This, just because this was one of the first Stars cards I bought after I moved to the Fort Worth, Dallas area. My wife is a huge Stars fan, has been for more than 20 years. So they are like my number two team now. Just thought this was a great patch. I bought this off of a friend. Serial number 12 out of 21. Doesn't really matter who it was, but Trevor Daley was a longtime member of the Stars, a fan favorite. Did not win a cup with them, but was able to go on and win one later with the Pittsburgh Penguins. This is in here, 1950 Bowman Bill Johnson. The reason this is in here is this to me is one of the most beautiful sets ever. I played center when I played football for 3 years. Just the fact that he's down there, ready to snap the ball, the background, the blue sky, the trees, it just looks like they're out in the field practicing. Just to me, this is art on a card, and I absolutely love this. And despite the fact I have no real attachment to Bill Johnson, it's just the beauty of the card and everything that goes with it. Was only able to put one Barkley, so as much as I love Barkley, none of his cards showed up in my top 20. But I also have 3 outstanding autograph redemptions with Panini, so that could change if I were to do this list next year and those show up. This is the first big Barkley card I bought. I bought this off of a friend, ungraded. Star, which predates his Fleer rookie card. But yeah, just always loved Barkley as a kid. This isn't his true rookie, but this was the first big Charles Barkley I bought. I think I bought this off of my friend. He was a dealer at shows for a while. I wish he would come back and start seeing shows again. But long story, he's kind of gone off the grid. So that's why. Could have been either one of these two, but the reason for these two is about a year ago, I was out and obviously looking for Prism. Zion Mania got me. I ended up pulling these two, and Zion Mania helped me rediscover some of my love for basketball. So just for that, these are always going to remind me, since then I've picked up some great cards, some things from when I was a kid. You saw the Jason Williams, and apparently I had this one separate from those, but a Jason Williams autograph. This is my first autograph. There are some other ones I like better, but I think this one I got because I got it for the price, and it kind of made me feel like I didn't need to go get one to have, because I have one, but I want to upgrade to a different one. This is a card I've had for probably close to 20 years, if not 20 years. I would have gotten this in the early 2000s when I was a huge NFL fan. I can't stand the NFL now. I will have it on a lot of Sundays just because it's sports and it's on. But when I was a big NFL guy, I was a Browns fan. I had multiple autographs, sold some of them over the years, which, regrets. But this is one that I kept and absolutely love it. You may have seen my picture on Facebook or Twitter and seen this card and just assume that it was going to be in my top 20, but it did not make my top 20. It's my 1955 All-American Red Grange. Obviously, I love the card. It's graded a SGC 10, 1, whatever you want to call it. Obviously, because of the paper loss there, but this is a set I'm working on passively. I don't know that I've added to it in the last couple years, but that's something I'm looking forward to trying to do maybe in the next years. Be a little more aggressive. I think I've got about 2/3 of the set, but Red Grange, legendary college football player, and I am a college football guy. If you watch the 007 movies, the James Bond movies, you know who Dame Judi Dench is. She was M for probably the better part of 20 years, and I loved her in that role, and I have about 25, probably 25, 30 Bond autographs, but this is by far the best one. I don't have any of the guys that played Bond, but yeah, love that card. When I was in my late teens, early 20s, I was really into NASCAR. Jeremy Mayfield was my guy. I was a super collector. I've been a super collector since before super collector as I know it was a term. At some point, sold off pretty much everything. I just lost interest, but this is one that I kept, and I've had this for a long time. So the combination Jeremy Mayfield, Rusty Wallace. Not a big Rusty Wallace fan, but I mean, you can't deny that he's one of the best to ever drive in NASCAR. And so this is one, like I said, I've had that for about 20 years as well, which I don't have a whole lot of cards that I've had for that long. I've always turned over my collection a lot. Jerry West autograph. What I love about this is actually the first one I had. I have 2 West autographs, but this one I would choose because it's West Virginia. It's not Lakers. Bought this graded. Was pretty happy to have it, and it's definitely one that when I think of my WVU collection, I always think of this card. Next one is multiple copies of the same card, but this was the first one I had as I got it graded myself, and it came out a 6.5. Anytime I can find a copy of this card for probably $15 or less, I probably buy it. I think I got to have more copies than this, but this is Frank Gatsky's only mainstream released football card. Gatsky is a Hall of Famer. I can't remember how many championships he won over his career. He had about a 10-year career, and I think he won about 7 or 8 championships. He grew up in Mannington, West Virginia, played high school football there, lived in Grafton later on in his life, and I didn't know this, but one of my, how I would say this, one of the top 3 male influences in my life was a neighbor. He was a family member through marriage, but he was friends. His best friend lost his life a few years back, and his son also has passed away. But the son I went to high school with, but in Little League played against him, and this was actually his grandfather, and I did not know that until later. So just a little bit of I don't even know, just nostalgia, I guess, for me, and memories of growing up. This was from my friend Val at NASCAR Radio. These were cards that were given to students. As you can see, the Say No to Drugs. Paul Goldsmith is one of 4 drivers to drive in the Indianapolis 500 that was born in the state of West Virginia. This is his toughest card. Black borders, and they were given to kids. Not many of them are in good shape. But Val, like I said, NASCAR Radio on Twitter, and he's got racing card info here on YouTube, and I guess my team bag is broken on. Oh, looks like it wasn't attached. But anyway, so I love that. And he is also right now 95 years old and the oldest living driver to have participated in the Indy 500. I don't know if he still does, but as of about 4 or 5 years ago, he was still flying airplanes. He actually owns an airport, and like I said, was flying planes at 90 years old. If you're into old NASCAR, IndyCar, there is a channel called Scene Vault Podcast, and they actually have an upcoming interview with 95-year-old Paul Goldsmith that I am so excited. I'm hoping it starts this week. I'm hoping part 1. Not a great condition card. I had one of these when I was younger, sold it off because I was working on the 71 top set as a teen, sold it off at one point. But to me, this is just one of the greatest cards ever. Just the photo, the look. I love 71 tops, the All-Star Trophy. So I picked up this well-loved, beat-up copy off of ComC a few years ago for like $3. But just always going to be one of the most visually appealing cards ever to me. And speaking of visually appealing cards, it's crazy to think that back-to-back Yankees that I have any Yankees in here because I despise the Yankees. But I mean, we all know what the 52 top set is. Some think it's overrated, etc. But for me, you got a Hall of Famer, and I just love the background. You got the facade of Yankee Stadium there, 52 tops. It's literally it's the image that does it for me. It's just such a beautiful card. And once I saw this image, just scrolling through ComC one day, I knew I had to have a copy and made it happen. So the next group is multiple cards, but I would have put them all together to kind of cheat KBO Collections rules. But Dale Murphy was my first favorite player when I started playing baseball. These two cards I've had since shortly after they came out. They were a couple of the first Murphy certified signatures, and I mean, there was no way I was not going to have those. These ones I picked up later down the road. This one's a buyback of some sort, but I love the 84 tops design. This one I found at a local card shop. I did not pay 40. I think I paid like maybe 15 or 20 for it. So just at that price, I was going to do it. I'd be curious to know. I hate sticker autographs, but I do love these foil stickers that Donners used back in the day. I would I would love to see if you're going to do sticker autos, those being used. I know some people hate them. I'd love to hear your opinion. And speaking of Murph, he does not make my top 20, but this is the first Desert Shield card I ever had, and that was only I got probably a handful of years ago. And he's in a Phillies uniform, and to the Phillies, but still. And another one that I showed on my preview on Instagram and Twitter that I guess some would be surprised by. This did not make my top 20, but it's just SGC1 Stan Musial rookie. The epitome of not all ones are created equal. Not heavily creased or anything. Oh, there's that. So you can't really see the back. I guess I should have taken it out. Yes, faded and whatnot, but it's a black and white card, so to me it doesn't do quite the damage, so to speak, to the overall image that it could. Corners are rounded, centering's not perfect, but that's a beautiful card for me. At one point I sold off my ComC port, and this was one of the cards that I bought with that. So that is the final of the not top 20. So now we're going to start the top 20. We're going to go in order, and it's already been 23 minutes. Thanks for hanging in. This card, number 20, and this card is an example of how fluid, for me, a list like this is. Going through my cards yesterday, found these. It's not necessarily one I always think about. WVU played Texas yesterday. This image was taken at the game 2 years ago at Darrell K. Royal Stadium as he scored a 2-point conversion and is about to give the old horns down. Fuck you, Texas. Fuck you, Big 12, too, because you took that game from us yesterday. You know damn well we should have won that, but I don't complain about officiating a lot, but anytime WVU plays Texas or Oklahoma, we don't get any calls. They definitely, fuck you, Big 12. We need to go to another conference. But we'll leave that there. So anyway, horns down. This kind of goes along with the Owen Schmidt I showed you earlier, where the image itself is a particular image of a particular moment that means something to me. So it is what it is, and that is why that is number 20. Number 19 is this right here. So this card, I'm not a Bills fan. I'm not a Sammy Watkins fan. What does this for me is that I pulled this from a Panini Father's Day. I've always loved cracked ice. And it is the New Era patch from his hat. So, in theory, there should only be one of these. There may be multiple ones. At the time, I worked for Lids in their corporate office. I worked for Lids Company for over 11 years, and at the time I left, it had been over a third of my life I had worked for them. So, despite the fact that I don't like New Era, it's still just everything. The fact that I pulled it, that it was the New Era patch, which was super cool, should conceivably be a one of one. I've just always loved this card. Now, I have had this car up for sale at times on eBay and at card shows, but with a ridiculous price point. One of those, if you want to pay it, I'll sell it, but I am not going to sell it. I'm not going to sell it, give it away. I'm not going to let it go easily because I do have some emotional attachment to it. That is card number 19. Number 18 starts a little run of non-sports. I picked this up off my buddy Rob. This was out of National Convention packs. Leaf Pop Century. Burt Reynolds is the Bandit. Smoking the Bandit is one of my favorite movies ever. Burt Reynolds, one of my favorite actors ever. I guess he and the recently deceased Sean Connery will be contestants tomorrow in the afterlife with Alex Trebek, who just passed away this morning. Not sure who the third contestant will be up there on Jeopardy, but love this for a Burt Reynolds autograph. It's the only one I have. The next is another non-sport. Picked this up randomly at a card show in Indianapolis, so probably about 7 years ago. Big Bang Theory dual Relic. So, as you can see, the swatch is from the shirt she is wearing. This swatch is from his undershirt that he is wearing. And this is one of my favorite Big Bang Theory episodes ever. Probably my favorite. Definitely top 3. So I saw it. Actually paid $50 for this. Apparently going rate was $100. I don't know, but you know, I've kept it this long and I love it, and it's made my top 20. So paying $50 for it was well worth it. I do think this is from one of the earlier releases of Big Bang Theory, which do have some pretty high price points, I believe. At least they did last time I looked, which might explain that. When I purchased this card, so it's an 1890 in 163. When I purchased this card a little less than 3 years ago, it was the oldest card that I had in my collection. As you can see, it is an English Mastiff, and I purchased this within a couple of weeks after our Mastiff Coquetta had passed away. I actually bought a few older cards like this from different sets that had Mastiffs on them. Still have those, but this, like I said, just the fact I did pay the most for this of any of them, and the fact that it was the oldest card at the time, it's just a very sentimental card for me. I love you. We miss you, Coquetta. But, you know, since you left, we were able to rescue and save 3 more girls, 2 of which would probably have been euthanized. So we were able to bring them into our home, you know, when you left us. But we still love you, baby girl. Don't ever forget you. This card here, 1950. I think there's debate whether they're 49 or 50. These are the Topps felt back cards that I know of. This is the first West Virginia University card, football. As you can see, it does say West Virginia University on them. There are 2 versions of this card. There's also a gold that I do not have yet, but I've been able to, like I said, grab these 2. Never really had a desire to have 2, but got such a great deal on the second one. The bidding went off much lower than I anticipated. So I grabbed it. But yeah, I don't know of any West Virginia football card from before this. I think he's the first West Virginia football player on a card, and it does say West Virginia University. There was a, I think it's the T51 Murad College Series, there was a WVU card, but it is a golfer. So I'm also a Blackhawks fan, have been since I was a teenager. Players come and go, but Joel Quenneville was the coach for the three Stanley Cup championships over the last decade, and didn't even know that he had an autographed card because at one point I had looked, but didn't know he had an official one. And I've gotten this, I want to say, probably about a year ago. Sticker autograph, you know, not a fan of that, but It is what it is. Numbered out of 199. There are no other Blackhawks in this. There is one other Blackhawk in this list, but he was the head coach for all three of them. Miss you, Coach Q. They never should have let you go. This card, I pulled this myself. It's numbered, I believe, out of 99. Yeah, 99. I loved watching Andrew Luck play at Stanford. I missed very few Stanford games over the course of time he was there. His dad was formerly a quarterback at West Virginia University, a Rhodes Scholar, was our athletic director. So just always, even though he did not attend West Virginia, I've just kind of always considered him a Mountaineer, and the fact that I was able to pull this one is just awesome. And it's been in this same One Touch mag for since the day I pulled it. What's next? T206. You know, I said earlier, not all ones are created equal. I love this card. I have had people tell me that the blue on this card is about the best blue they've ever seen on a T206 speaker. Yes, it was in somebody's scrapbook because on the corners there is some brown on every one. And there is a little bit of damage, paper loss on the back from where they took it out, and then a little bit here, which was probably from like one of those little, I don't even know what you call them, tabs or whatever that you hold, I guess, cards, or my grandma collected stamps, and I know she used those. And this is a 1, but I will tell you, of the other ones I've seen, I will take this one with back damage and some brown corners over one that is creased, has just missing color, has faded color. The fact this had to have been in the scrapbook for a long time and from early on, with how bright that blue is, comparing it to others, it's just beautiful, and it's a freaking 1. I can't believe that. I'm so happy. I love that card so much. I showed a 55 All-American earlier. This was one of the first ones I had to the set that I have. I bought this when I was still living in Indianapolis. Walked into the baseball Indy card exchange one day, and Andy was there, the owner, but one of the guys was there. Said, "Hey, I got something you want you to look through." So he gave me a book, and it had some junk wax on the front. I was like, "Okay." He's like, keep going." And there was a whole bunch of 1955 All-Americans that I bought, and this was one of them. Jim Thorpe, one of the greatest athletes of the century, if not the greatest athlete of the century. Olympian, played pro baseball, played for the Canton Bulldogs. I believe that's considered professional football. But yeah, I don't know what else to say about it. Just absolutely love that card and always will. I actually got that. I bought that raw and got it graded on my own. Ralph Mulford, early Indianapolis 500 successful driver. This is from the T227 set, which has multiple baseball players. Home Run Baker, Ty Cobb are in this set. He is one of 2 auto drivers. I will never own the other auto driver because it is one of the toughest cards in the set, the David Bruce Brown. There are very few copies known of that card. But I was surprised at how cheaply I was able to get this at an auction. Again, for a 1, I mean, to me, that's a pretty solid 1. Buy the card, not the grade. I believe there are different backs of these. I believe there are 2 different. There's the minors and, excuse me, I don't recall what the other one is. Someday I'll look to maybe add that one because I do still have an eBay search up for this. So I'm sure I'll have multiples of this at some point. Next, take it out of this. This is my Jim Brown rookie. This is a card that I traded for probably 20 years ago, and a few cards that I pulled as a kid that I regret getting rid of were part of the trade that helped me acquire this card, however. So this will always be one of my cards. I've never been a huge grading condition, so I thought this was in a little better shape than it was, but I took it into Indy Card Exchange one time, and he pointed out that there's definitely a couple of minor surface creases in there, so it's never going to grade that well, so useless to really grade it. I can protect it just as well in that. But I had mentioned I was a Browns fan. If you're a Browns fan, I mean, this is one of the Mount Rushmore cards that you almost feel like you have to have. Maybe for me, it's not the number one. I'm more of the earlier years of the Browns when they were super successful, the Otto Grahams, the Gatskys, etc. But, I mean, it's a freaking Jim Brown rookie. What else can you say? So this one's another cheater where it's not actually one card. This is actually 4 cards. You've seen these just like you've seen the Mulford if you've watched my channel. So T206 Scoops Carry. There's 2 guys in the T206 set that played baseball at West Virginia University. And of course, they both have to be Southern Leaguers. And if you know anything about the T206 set, Southern Leaguers are much tougher to come by and much more expensive. So I have 3 copies of that. So that's the other copy of the T206. And though this looks the same, this is the T213, which is even tougher yet to come by. As you can see, the paper loss there. When I purchased this card, actually it still is. This is still the most expensive, or most I've ever paid for a card. I had put on Net54 that I was looking for different copies of this, and someone reached out to me, and he sold me the 2 toughest. Why I have all 4 of them here, and this is what I call my rainbow, because they are different backs. Again, this is the, oh wait, that's the Piedmont. Oh no. This is the coupon, so this is technically not a T206, it's a T213. But you can see it's got a coupon cigarettes back. That is the toughest and most expensive of the cards. This is of the T206s, this is the toughest to find and the most expensive of the T206s. The Hindu back, this is actually the only Hindu I have. These 2 cards are the 2 cards in my entire collection, the most I've spent on a card in more than 30 years of collecting. The Old Mill is a little tougher to come by than the Piedmont, but different backs. So I have the complete run of backs for this particular card. And as I said, he played at West Virginia University. I need to get on the Carlton Molesworth project, but those seem to be a little bit tougher to come by than the Scoops Carries. The next one, this is an extremely sentimental card for me. I've had this less than a year. I got this early this year. My uncle. I did not have a dad or a grandfather that collected sports cards. So it was something that my uncle had gotten me into. My uncle passed away almost 3 years ago unexpectedly of a heart attack. The last time we had talked, he had asked me, he had said that he had mentioned that he was looking for this card to finish his set. He said his set, so I'm wondering if it was like he was doing a player run, because I know he's had sets back to the mid-50s when I was a kid, because Rocky Colavito was his favorite player. So I got this shortly before and made a video this year on what would have been his birthday. I was very choked up, very emotional. I don't know if he ever got this card, but I got it to remember him, knowing that that was the last card he had. So this, glad we could help out, Ken, and thanks for thinking of us for what you wanted. Dave and Justin. Dave, Justin, father and son, set up at local card shows. Dave actually passed away a few weeks ago from cancer. So this card will never leave my collection. It has double sentimental value. Dave was one of the kindest people that I knew. I mean, granted, I only knew him from a hobby interaction, but you know, you meet these people and they're not kind, they're not good people inside the hobby, and then complete jack-offs outside the hobby. Dave was a good man that was taken from us way too young. I'm very glad that I kept, his little note with this. I feel for Justin and his family. Last I had seen him was in the spring at the Dallas Card Show, and he seemed to be doing okay. So I don't actually know what happened that things regressed, but this card is always, I mean, I will have this card forever. There's a lot of sentimental value to that. Moving on. This, if you've been on watching my channel for a while, got this probably just around the same time I got the last card. This was my first Dale Earnhardt autograph. I now actually have 7, but this is one that was a Christmas gift from my wife. She didn't actually pick the card out, but my big gift for Christmas was an eBay gift card, which that in itself is a big present because she hates giving and getting gift cards for Christmas. But she just, she just kind of was at a loss. So I ended up buying this and a couple of other cards with that gift card. So this is a gift from my wife, a Christmas gift from my wife for our 5th Christmas together, and just has a lot of meaning. We're getting up here toward the end, so these all have meaning. So these 2 cards go together. I mentioned my uncle. When you graduate from high school, college, people will send you, gifts. Typically, it's money. When I graduated college, these 2 cards my uncle gave me. I have always had them, have never had any desire to sell them, never will sell them. They're worth exponentially more to me having than having cash that would just be spent on something else. So these 2 go together. These were a college graduation gift from my Uncle Don, who, as I mentioned, is the man that got me into cards. I mean, he's one of those 3 men that I mentioned. My dad, my uncle, and then my neighbor who'd married into the family, or, basically my 3 biggest male. They shaped who I am as a man, and I've been collecting since 7 because of my uncle, and I don't know myself not collecting. Back-to-back Ripkens. So this is the Bill Ripken F-Face. I pulled this card in 1989. Now, me saying that, I do not believe that this is the card I pulled because of that price tag on the back. I think this is one I bought for like $1 or 2 at a card show, and the one that I actually opened is actually in a binder. But yes, I pulled this as a 10-year-old kid. I remember this because 89 Fleer packs were going for a crazy price. Well, it was like $4 a pack. I mean, that was huge in 89. My mom let me get 3 packs at that price, which, those were ridiculous prices. And out of one of those 3 packs, we went outside. We were at a card show at the Ramada Inn in Morgantown, West Virginia. Went outside the room to sit down and open them in the chairs they had outside the ballroom. And I pulled it and was so excited. And I had some guy that was probably in his 20s. He saw how excited I was. He's like, "I'll give you $20 for that." I looked at that guy. I'm sitting there with my mom. I'm 10 years old. I looked at that guy. I went, "Fuck you." First time I cussed in front of my mom, and first time I cussed in front of her, and last time I cussed in front of her for a long time. But she just kind of laughed because she knew. She knew why the packs were expensive. She was the one, I found out because it was on like the CBS Evening News she was watching, and she called me in. So she was the one that actually told me about it. I wouldn't have known about it for another few months until I got my next Beckett. So super sentimental there. So it looks like we're up to number 3. I have shown all 3 of these cards before. I've definitely shown this one. So this card is an Andrew Shaw Canvas Young Guns JSA certified Beckett graded autograph. Andrew Shaw, I showed the Andrew Shaw collection, I want to say, within the last year. Did a video on that. Was my player collection for a long time until he got traded from the Blackhawks. So Young Guns are the non-signed rookie cards that you want for any hockey player. A Crosby and Ovechkin, raw, you're talking a couple $100. I'd maybe 300 on those guys. Kane, Taves, guys like that, a couple $100. Probably I would say that Austin Matthews is probably in that same range. McDavid might be more to the 300. Well, Andrew Shaw did not have a Young Guns card, but he did have a Canvas Young Guns card. I showed you earlier the Big Bang Theory card. I bought that, and I bought a box of the 2011-12 Upper Deck Series 2 from the same guy the same day. Jokingly, opening that box, I said, man, it would be great if I pull the one card that I really want, and it was that card. So there were, I want to say, 50 Canvas Young Guns, and the odds on pulling a Canvas Young Gun was like one maybe in, I don't remember what it was. I think it was more than a box. So the odds were obviously minuscule. But I bought that one box, and I pulled that one card I wanted. This is actually not that card. This is one that later on I bought on eBay, the second copy I had of this. This is a card that at the right price, I buy every copy I can. I've only got about 5 of them because I'm just not paying a ridiculous amount. But anyway, to speed this up a little bit since we're at like 45 minutes, I was able to take this card. I told you I worked for Lids. We had what were called Lids locker rooms in Chicago. Andrew Shaw was going to be signing in store. So I drove from Indianapolis to Chicago, met him, talked with him because the crowd was not very big. It was like a Wednesday afternoon. So it just wasn't, it wasn't a weekend or anything like that. So not a ton of people there. Talked with him, met him. The kid was just as nice of a guy as you'd want him to be. But he signed this card for me. He signed some other stuff, but he signed this card. A few years later, I moved to the Dallas area. JSA was authenticating signatures at a card show. So I went ahead and paid to have it authenticated. I knew it was legit, but the reason I had it authenticated was that I wanted to get it. At the time, Beckett was authenticating JSA certified cards. So I had it certified. I've got my JSA sticker. I've got my certification, whatever you call it there, ticket there. And then I was able to get it graded. So at the time, I was 90% complete on Andrew Shaw cards. Like everything I needed was numbered to 10 or less, and they just weren't popping up. I didn't have a lot of ways to add to my collection, but took this step by step. First I purchased it, then I got it signed, then I got it authenticated, then I got it graded and slabbed. And it was just a different way to add something new to my collection. This card will always be one of my favorite cards, and I've contemplated for a few years now selling off the Andrew Shaw collection, but that card will never leave. Speaking of cards that will never leave, card number 2 in my collection is this. This card was done by Ken Carl, who does a lot of sports art, and you can commission him to do things. This 2019 was my wedding gift from my wife. She had him do this picture of it. This was a picture of us. This was one of our engagement photos, but had him turn it into a card. And this, I checked to make sure she wasn't going to be too upset that it was only number 2 on my list, but it is, and obviously it means the world to me more than almost anything, because it was such a great, unique gift. She says she's not a great gift giver, but I mean, she outdid herself on that. What I gave her was nothing anywhere close to as thoughtful as what she did. And number 1, this is the first expensive, in quotes, card that my parents bought me. It is not, it looks like I hit the thing at one point. It is not in great shape. It would be graded a 1. But this guy was one of my favorite players. It was a rookie card that even at the time I want to say was $75 or $100. It's beat to hell, but I got it when I was like 10 years old, and who's going to spend $100 on a mint card for their 9-year-old? My Ricky Henderson rookie card. This is, like I said, the first big card that my parents ever gave me as a gift. Now, they bought me boxes and packs and things like that. But even in the late 80s, this was a very expensive, desirable card. I have never owned another copy of this card. I have no real desire to own another copy of this card because I have this one. This and that Bill Ripken are probably the two cards that I've had the longest. They have obviously survived every card purge I have had over the last 30 years. And they just always will. So this is my number one card. I'm not sure how many of you are going to get through all 50 minutes of this, but if you hung around, I appreciate it. Go follow KBO Collections. I would love to see other people do videos, whether they be 10-minute videos or like mine 50-minute videos, but I would love to see what cards other people have that they collect, and not just what it's because of what it's worth, but what it's worth to you. Because to me, I am a collector, not an investor, and that's what the hobby is all about. And I'll just leave it at that. But I will see you down the road.